Hi, Sturgeon Funnel Flies. Today we're going to be tying in Adams. Okay, so I've got a number 10 dry fly hook on here. I'm going to be using for the wings. Instead of using the grizzly hackle points, I'm going to be using some Wally Wings. So I've got a duck feather here, and I'm going to be using some grizzly hackle, some brown hackle, and some brown thread. Okay, so go ahead and get started. I'm going to thread the hook. Stay about maybe an eye length away from the eye, and I'm going to wrap it all the way to the gap. Okay, I bring it forward again. I'm going to go a little more than halfway. There. Okay, so there's a lot of good videos on there about doing Wally Wings. So I'm just going to show you one of the techniques on here. Just grab the wing, pinch it toward the top. Grab the feather, pinch it toward the top, pull them back so they're nice and even, and you get the same amount of fibers on each side. Okay, wet the end. Now I've got this adapter that came with my loon resin. What I'm going to go ahead is just insert the feather in one end, out the other, and I'm going to slowly pull it out. I'm going to match my wing length. Now my wing, I'm going to go the same length that I've wrapped the thread. So it's right about there, maybe a little longer, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit so I can catch it right on top. Nice and easy. I want to make sure it stays on top. Okay, looks like it in place. And give it one or two nice tight wraps. Now when you trim it off on an angle so it's tapered. You want to cut down as much bulk as we can. Okay, go ahead and just wrap it in. Add a few extra wraps here, kind of to taper it down. And we're working this thread right back to where we're going to put the tail. Now for the tail, you want to grab yourself a larger piece of hackle, kind of like the one you just cut off the end of the grizzly, and you want to find a matching one that's on the brown. So I got a nice long brown one here. This off here. So I want to lay them on top of each other. Okay, like this, so stems are touching. Kind of work them together a little bit. I want to grab a nice clump of them. Both feathers at the same time. Snip it off. Pinch it. So I don't want to use all that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to grab it here. I'm going to kind of pull some out. Nice and easy. There we go. Looks like I might have pulled out too much of the brown. That's okay. Just put some more brown in there. There. Okay, try and get the bend up on an angle here. Now what we want to do is we don't want the tail way out here. We got about a third. So you're going to pinch it off about where you want it to end. Right about there. And you're going to drop that in right behind where the grizzly hackle ended. So again, we're kind of going for that carrot shape and tying it in like that. And if you want, of course, you can throw a wrap underneath to get them to come up, but this is okay where it is right here. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing a dubbing loop. So I'm going to pull this out, 2 fingers over the 2 fingers, spin my hand around, grab it right there. Okay, I'm going to do about 3 wraps. Now to hold the loop in place, I'm going to pull it tight, 1 wrap around. Okay, now I'm going to walk it back to the end of the fly. overlapping it. There, then bring my thread forward. So now I have my loop. Got a bobbin spinner right here. Okay, got a nice big bunch of dubbing right here. I'm going to go ahead and catch a nice clump of it on. Okay, and then so I don't get everything all tangled up, bobbin holder. All right, I'm going to spin it. As it starts to spin, I'm going to keep working it up a little bit. Once it's got a nice grip on all of it, I'm going to start pulling stuff back. And you can tell when which ready to start doing that, when you start getting it like that. So what I'll do is I'll start pulling back, not trying to pull everything off, but I'll pull back, kind of roll it up and put it aside for the next one. Spin a little more. Spin the side. So I'm really just getting a nice thin layer of dubbing. Especially on the ends. Okay, so what I like to do now is I grab my hackle pliers, still keeping the tension on, grab my bobbin, my weighted dubbing spinner, okay, and I'm going to start this on the end. And I'm not going to overlap. I go right next to the previous wrap, but as I get toward the center, I'm going to go tighter. Now as I come back toward the end there, I'm going to wrap it there. And it looks like I had some extra, so I don't want to use it on there. I'll just cut it off. We'll give it 2 wraps, hold it in place. Spin it up, cut it off. Okay, now we can go forward. We're going to take the tab here from the Wally Wing and right underneath the Wally Wing. I want to build it up with about 6, 7, or 8 wraps just so I can get it standing straight up in the air and then come forward a few. Okay, so now I have the dubbing on here. I'm going to trim it up a little bit. All right, be careful grabbing that feather. It might came a little loose here, so let's get that back over there. And there we go. Okay, now for the feather. Okay, I've got two of them right here. Okay, what I did is I checked them on my gauge. So these are good for number 10. Okay, so I'm going to strip some back right about to there. Cut it off. Grab a small clump of it. Just trim it back. Just gives the thread something to catch on. Do the same thing here. Okay, I'm going to lay the 2 feathers on top of each other. And sometimes this gets a little bit of practice, but you just want to line those 2 tips up. You can give it a good brush. And you can get them to sit right on top of each other. Okay, and we see it's going this way, so this is how we want to lay on the fly. So right through here, I'm coming to the side of it. I'm going to bring the thread back over to the back end, behind the wing, and give it about 2 or 3 good wraps behind the wing. And now I can build it up a little more behind the wing, and plus it secures the feather a little more. Okay, so I'm going to drop that now. So what I want to do now is I'm going to get 2 or 3 wraps behind the feather, 2 or 3 wraps in front. So I'm going to grab the tips. Grab the tips nice and close. Make sure they're stretched out so that the feather wrap's nice and even. You don't want one loose and one tight. Tips on here. Keeping it kind of close to the feather. There's 1. There's 2. This third one looks like the thread's going to catch the feather, so we want to be careful of that. There's my 3. Now for this turn, you want to pull this feather back and follow just like you did with the thread, right underneath that feather. Okay, same thing, right next to the one you just wrapped. There's 2. There's 3. We're staying away from that eye. Okay, we're going to tie that in. Give it about 3 wraps. Flip this over. Now with these, save these tips because you can use them later for your wings if you decide that you don't want to just do them like a traditional, where you use this as the wing. Okay, so now we're going to take this back and wrap in the head. Okay, once we got that part wrapped in, let's give it 3 or 4 on the whip. Feather stuck. There we go. Come up there. Okay, so what I like to do now is I always drop 2 heads on the 2 or 3 drops on the bottom of the head of head cement. So just need 2 and 1 on the top, so it kind of goes down the sides but doesn't go in the eye. I do the same thing here. Okay, now if we're pulling the Wally Wing, what we like to do here is just grab a couple threads, separate, grab a couple more threads on the other side, just separate. So there we go. Okay, trim these off. Okay, and there we go. We have an Adams done with Wally Wings. So of course you can do the same thing with slip wings. You can do parachute wings on this guy. Traditional, they're tying. Traditional, they're using the hackle point tips, which are fun to tie too. But this one, nice fly. So I'm going to go ahead and here's a 14, and you can even go as low as a 16. So I want to thank you for joining. This is George of Fun with Flies. You have a good day.